What's up, everybody, and welcome back for another EVE Online Planetary Industry video. This one is going to be a pretty short one. There was some comments or some requests for me to show a P0 to P2 planet. The idea here is that you would set up this planet and you only really have to touch it when you want to empty it out or restart the extractors, but the goal is just to create a certain type of P2 and everything is done on that planet. So the extraction of the raw, the conversion to raw to P1, and then that final conversion from P1 to P2. This is not going to be for the min-maxers, the people who are trying to do large volume. This is more or less for the fair weather PI people that want to just kind of set up something to have a little bit of passive income, but they're not overly concerned with the actual volume and the actual income that can really you get from like scaling or doing something that is very direct and deliberate, so to speak. So this is done on a barren planet. There are several different P2s that can be done on a single planet. The one that I do is mechanical parts. It uses precious metals and reactive metals. Now, I'm going to kind of walk you through the pipeline, but you can go and see that it's pretty relatively easily set up. Now, each of these extractors here, one is targeting the base metals. I have 5 extractor heads here, and then the other one is targeting the precious metals or the noble metals. So, and there's 5 extractor heads there as well. If you want to have more basic factories and more advanced factories, you can bring these down to 4 or to 3 or to 2. I probably wouldn't drop below 2 just because it would be kind of the raw yield would be very low at that point to support the amount of factories, because you're going to be dropping heads in order to put factories, but there's no point in putting extra factories if the raw input or the raw yield doesn't support the extra factories. So in terms of what the raw output for these are, I have these set up for day cycles. So this one is going to be producing about 26,000 average an hour for a total of about 600,000 for base metals. And then for the noble metals, we're looking at about the same, about 28,000 average hourly, and then almost 700,000 for the entire cycle. And I think this is actually a pretty good number, because if we would have scaled this same output to a 10 head extractor, you'd be looking at over 1 million raw. So I think that's a pretty good area to be in. Now, running a launch pad, everything goes into this launch pad. You don't have to worry about space, because every time you convert from one level to the next, you will be converting more volume than you're outputting, so you don't need a storage facility here. All of the raw go into here, and then also all of the P1 will go back into here, and then eventually the P2 as well. This allows you to have one spot that you can access and pull everything as you need. What's also nice about this setup too is if you do have extra P1 laying around, you can inject it in here and kind of help kind of consume some of that as well. Now, this is going to be running 3 basic factories for precious metals, and then it's going to be running 3 factories for the reactive metals. Now, these basic factories will run twice every hour, so our output is actually 40. So the way that the math tends to work here, because these advanced factories will run at an hour and their input is 40. So for every 1 advanced factory, I try to have at least 1 basic on each side. So these 2 basics essentially will feed this advanced 24 hours a day, as long as there's raw. Then these 2 feed this advanced, and then these 2 will feed this advanced. And we're right at the limit for power and CPU usage, so we've maximized all of the resources here in order to kind of not leave anything on the table, so to speak. After a few days, after a few recycles of the extractor, we'll start to see if our density becomes really, really good in a certain spot. If it's really over the 600,000 mark, then we can drop heads here. But I only want to drop heads if I can add another factory for each, and then also another advanced. Because we could add extra basics, but then we would just have a lot of P1 kind of hanging about. I'd rather have raw hanging about than actual P1, because with the way this is configured, all these basics will keep all these advances running. Now, I don't have the numbers yet for the daily yield here, but that's not really the point. The point is to kind of like set it and forget it, which is a really nice. I know a lot of people who are not crazy into PI like I am will probably appreciate something like this. If they have the skills, you can set up 6 of these. If you're in a system that has like 6 barons, you could set up 6 planets exactly like this, and every day, or produce quite a bit of a decent amount of mechanical parts. But what I'll do is all of the other type of P2 that can also be ran, I will probably do videos over those as well, and give them try to give those different configurations as much explanation as possible. So this is how I do mechanical parts on a very, very, very hands-off kind of a situation, which I think is pretty cool. Depending, like I said in the earlier video, if you want to like go crazy with the volume and you want to make as much ISK as possible, this is not necessarily going to be the configuration for you. The other thing too here is all of these inputs. These are input about 5 an hour, so you're looking at about 15 for every hour. So you're looking like 360 a day or so, which is not bad. But also, if you do this on 6 planets, it starts to add up a little bit. It's not great. It's not like what you would do if you would set it up like I set up on any of the other videos that I've done on the channel. But I think it's if you're not really into PI, and you want to do something, just a little bit of something, I think this is a pretty good way to go. And then the last thing I'll address too is, like, I know there's gonna be a lot of people wondering why I don't have a storage facility. I've covered this in multiple videos and everything. The volume of PI across the board was cut in half a little while ago. And if you actually do the math and you look at all of the volume for everything, the amount of cubic meter that's going in terms of the raw, and the amount of cubic meter that's coming out for that same raw is drastically lower. So every step of this pipeline, you are going to be taking a certain amount of cubic meter, a certain amount of volume, and you're going to be outputting a lesser amount. So with that being said, you're never going to fill up this 10,000 cubic meter launch pad. The only way you would fill this up is if you were over producing raw to a crazy extent, because you can fit, right now we could literally hold 1 million noble and 1 million base metals to max this 10,000 cubic meter out, but we're only running 5 heads each, so that's going to be very difficult. Like, our entire cycle, both cycles combined, are only going to output 1.2 million for the entire thing, and we're going to be using that as we actually get it, because at a 24-hour rate, these extractors are going to be outputting every 15 minutes. So they're going to output 4 times an hour. The basics are going to output 2 times an hour, and then the advanced are going to output 1 time an hour. So we're never going to run out of space. The use of a storage facility is just no longer needed with the volume change. And by not using a storage facility, you give yourself room for 2 basic factories, essentially. So if we actually ran a storage facility here with a launch pad, we wouldn't be able to have these extra basics up here. So just keep that in mind and everything. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.